Welcome back, everyone. It's Mason and my co-star, Nick.
What's up, everybody?
When we have our own TV show, we're going to be co-stars, not co-announcers. But anyways, today's episode, I hope you guys enjoyed our last episode. It was a little insight onto who we are. And I think that it wasn't just me trying to bring on some family members. I think that it actually held a pretty decent importance because I think that the job they do is kind of unique and can fit well into, a lot of your guys' potential personal definitions of freedom. But anyways, this episode is going to be interesting. We got a lot to talk about. A couple things been happening in the news that are pretty political, and we're going to hit them hard and see where it goes. So you might get a little insight into me and Nick's political standpoints as well, because we all have them, so don't hate us for them. We'll start it off with that. The first thing is, Nick, you could start it off.
So the first thing we're talking about, the Trump wall. You've all heard about the wall that he wants to build. And he's been president for almost 3 years, and there's been no wall. So a Trump supporter named Brian Kolfage, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, to tell you the truth. But he started GoFundMe. And he's an ex-veteran. He's a triple amputee, Purple Heart recipient. So have a lot of respect for the guy. He started GoFundMe with the goal of $1 billion to build the wall. And it's been up for 3 days, and they already have $9 million. Right now they're pacing. They have 150,000 people who have donated to the campaign for Trump wall. That's $60 a person.
So obviously, we find it interesting. We'll go into a little bit of our views, but just in general, the fact that there's a GoFundMe that's raising that amount of money, you know what I mean? Like, I guess the question would beg, like, what if a GoFundMe for something not that raised that amount of money?
Yeah,
you know
something
what I mean?
something else you believe in, or
right? Because there's a GoFundMe's for like kids' cancer. Like I think it's like 80% of GoFundMe's are medical related, and they might get like a couple $1,000s. But what if like a family that had a cancer-ridden child or whatever was able to get $5 million? Like they could probably fly to a different country and get the cure to cancer, which definitely exists. We just it's just too much money is made off the cancer industry. But anyways, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing with this Trump wall, and I'm gonna start it off with some basic facts that might not be facts to some of you, but to us, we're gonna have to start this conversation off with the basic fact being that borders, we need borders, and we need border security. So I know there's some of you that say eliminate the borders. So we're gonna have to just go like that's a moral question that is pretty well, knocked down by logic. But if you believe that, then I'm sorry. But we're going to start off with the statement that we need borders. So then the question is, the biggest issue, then if the question is if we want border security because it's necessary, and immigration is a whole other question, like whether or not we want our policies to be to let people in and out is a whole other question. But border security, people don't come here illegally. So then the question is, the biggest issue with it was that no one wanted to spend $5 billion to build it, which, that's a value system where is it worth $5 billion of taxpayer money to build it or not? But now we're at the state where what happens if we raise the money to build it, and then or will the left continue to oppose it being built even when the money's there? And then that goes into the that brings about the argument.
Well, you see, so like some of the worries that some people have with this is like if you donate it to the Treasury, Congress still has to technically vote on it. But then there was also, I think it was back in 2012, this one billionaire donated $7.5 million towards building a statue. And he was able to directly donate that.
Right. So the reality of it is it's all politics, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, there's a lot of, so here's the thing for all of you out there, there's a huge difference between border security and immigration. They're different they're different subjects. So whether or not we think we should be letting in more people here legally or not, and approving more visas and approving more, citizenship requests, that's a whole nother conversation where there's a big divide between the left and the right. But as far as border security goes, I think there's a lot of Democrats that entirely do believe that we need proper border security. And a lot of times if they oppose it, it's because they're falling in with the party. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see what happens if the money is raised. And that's another part of it, is that I think Nick did the math, and it would take, he said something like Trump had 68 million voters, and if every single one of them donated $60, we'd have $5 billion, which...
Well, it was 63 million. I didn't do the math. The guy who put the GoFundMe up did the math on that, and that's like his incentive for people. It's $80 per Trump voter, and they get $5 billion. And and they said even if we get half of it, that's still a large chunk of wall where could make a huge impact.
Well, they could put it around a couple states.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was a cool idea. It was I don't know. When I first saw it, I laughed a little bit, but like at the end of the day, it's a cool idea because even if you don't agree with their reasoning for it, like, they're putting money towards something that they believe in.
Right, and I think that's the biggest point of this whole thing. It's not necessarily that it's about the border wall, but it's about the fact that, it's possible to raise money in the numbers of millions and billions, for a cause on a GoFundMe page, which didn't exist 10 years ago, you know what I mean? So, like, who knows what we could pick as our next cause that we want to raise money for, and if enough people back it, if it was...
I'm sure you could do that for, like, a business, too. If you want to start a business... Open up a GoFundMe, people donate, and it's like having investors that you don't have to pay back.
It's a definite thing, yeah. Especially, so not just any business, but especially in like a technological-based business where there's some sort of like futuristic appeal to what they're making. There's a lot of people that will donate to that, GoFundMe, because they see it's like as a benefit for future generations. But I did have one question about GoFundMe, which you probably not have the answer, Nick, but when someone starts a GoFundMe and people donate money, is the money like physically in GoFundMe's pocket, or is it simply like a pledge to once they reach their desired limit, then the money's pulled from their accounts?
If I'm not mistaken, it's already pulled from their accounts as soon as they make the donation.
So what happens if it never makes the max? Can they still use it?
So if it doesn't reach the goal within the allotted time limit, it will get refunded to everyone.
Oh.
Everyone gets their money back.
That's interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that.
I was looking at it. Some people donated thousands of dollars.
Right. Well, I mean, to be completely honest, we can get up to like $4 billion, some of these rich, very conservative minded individuals better pay up, you know what I mean? And I'm not even, and so first of all, this is the last thing we'll say because we got to move on, but it's not even like me and Nick are supportive of the wall. Nick personally believes that it's not even like worth it in the first place. Mm. And for me, there is the argument that people have is that, yeah, it's not worth it because, are they not going to find a way around it? Like, do we even not want these people in here in the first place? That's, a different kind of question where I think we need to increase legal immigration, but then have a better process for it and whatnot. But it's irrelevant when we're saying, the drug traffickers can get around the wall. So are they not just going to start moving people through tunnels? Like, is it not going to just become a new, money-making... Yeah, maybe what we're saying what would happen is the price to make it to America through via a coyote will be more expensive, but in the end, what would a wall even really do?
At the end, it's not really. I think a wall might be good for short-term numbers. Short-term, it'll make an impact, but long-term, I don't think it'll make a huge impact.
Right. So, there was an argument that what if instead of just building a wall, what if we just hired $5 billion worth of new border security agents? I don't know. Interesting. But we'll move on.
More than one way to skin a cat.
Whoa, you can't say that according to PETA. You have to say there's what was it? What is it? I don't even know what the one for
I
that
don't
one
know.
is. But they said instead of being a dead horse, they said don't overfeed a full
No, it
horse.
says feed a fed horse, which
Don't feed a
is
fed horse.
dangerous because that's how you kill a horse. You overfeed it.
Yeah,
Shame on PETA.
yeah.
They should know better.
PETA.
All right, next we are talking about
General James Mattis. So
Matt.
I know kind of a lot about Mad Dog Mattis, the Reverend Saint of Quantico, but Mattis is resigning as Secretary of Defense. So there's a couple things that go along with this. The first being that you need to really understand Mattis to understand what's going on here, and he didn't get fired. He also, it wasn't some like, what a lot of people are thinking is, because people understand who Trump is, they're going, "Hey, Mattis is resigning. We're going to World War III." That's not the fact. The Mattis isn't resigning because Trump is forcing him to do something that is against his his morals or something like that. Where it's like, "Hey, man, you're about to start World War III. I can't be part of this. I have to get out of here." That's not what's happening. The fact is that is this something that's lost in modern culture? Is that James Mattis is a man who has some morals and some principles that go far beyond like what you would expect from people these days. There was a quote one of my buddies put on Facebook that was like, James Mattis has shown time and time again that he is impervious to the need for corruption that is inherent with power. And it's true, man. Like, James Mattis is a 20-year military veteran that holds his oath to service of this country way above any personal desires.
Well,
and to him, what?
Well, so in his resignation letter, he actually, like, this is a quote from his resignation letter. He said, "My views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues." So
Right.
that was part of the issues he had. That
So I mean, that's the fact is that what happens. What the thing is not so much, which who knows, but it's not so much that Trump is about to plunge us into World War III. The fact is just that simply Trump is making decisions that don't align with the values of James Mattis. It doesn't mean that it's cataclysmic, but it simply is that they don't align with him. And to Mattis's view, in which in the military you serve at the behest of your civilian commander and your commander in chief, his idea is that I can't willingly be part of an administration that is doing something that I don't believe in. And it's not because Trump is doing something morally wrong, even though that's a whole nother conversation. But the fact is just that Mattis says, I don't believe in this. I'm here to serve at the behest of President Trump. And maybe it's even that he doesn't believe that he could fulfill his duties as the Secretary of Defense carrying out President Trump's wishes without feeling okay about it. You know what I mean? Without, because one thing is he doesn't want to do something that Trump wouldn't like because his only job is to serve at the behest of the president and carry out his orders. So what if he says that maybe I don't believe in what's about to happen enough to where I feel like maybe I can make a decision that isn't completely in line with his views. It's basically all I'm saying is that Mattis is resigning because he's a good ass dude and he's one of the last of the great ass leaders of this world, and he's doing it not because we're going to World War III. He's doing it because Trump is pulling out of Syria, which is another conversation, but Mattis doesn't believe that that's what we should be doing, and inherently he feels uncomfortable carrying out the orders of the president if he doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah, that's one of the awesome things about Mattis. Like, he's a free thinker.
Right.
He's not gonna, just because someone appointed him Secretary of Defense, doesn't mean he's just gonna do everything he says or just blindly obey. He's gonna he's gonna take his knowledge into account and do the best he can, and
Right.
until he can't do it. Which,
I mean, even for that man to be, what was it, 67 years old is when you have to retire from the military. And, not just retiring from a job, but from the military. Like, he was wiped. And he chose to serve as the Secretary of Defense. Like, a lot of you guys think that that's just like the putting on top, like, you finally made it. You get a little bit of power after building up your career. But to him, he don't need that. He chose to serve as the Secretary of Defense and give up some very much needed years that he could be relaxing in order to serve this country. And, nothing but respect. And I guarantee you'll see that Trump gives him nothing but respect either, because as much as you guys, I shouldn't say that. I almost started saying that, like, a lot of these guys listening don't like Trump. But, I mean, a lot of people don't like Trump. But maybe you guys do, maybe you guys don't. But even if you don't, one thing you have to realize is that Trump respects men of power. Like, he respects people who he sees as, equivalent to him or even better than him. And the issue that comes into play is when Trump destroys someone he believes inferior to him, and that's another moral issue. But Trump's going to respect Mattis because the world respects Mattis. And I mean, I have never seen as much respect for someone like James Mattis than he's gotten. Have you, Nick? I don't know.
Well, like, when it comes to respect, I think it's funny you said that, because I've actually thought that about Trump as well. How he respects people who he sees as equals. Like,
Right.
even Rex Tillerson, when he was part of the administration, when he resigned, he treated it like it was a normal thing, because he sees him as an equal.
Right.
But you see how he treats other people, even like his lawyer. He sees his lawyer as his inferior, his ex-lawyer,
Right.
and he treats him completely different.
100%. It's very interesting. I don't know. But with Syria, he wants to pull out. We all know what happened when we pulled out of Iraq with no plan in place, that there was a power vacuum. If you guys don't know, there's a power vacuum, which was one of the major factors that created ISIS. So we pull out of Syria. I think there's going to be a better plan in place simply because there's still a little bit of a structure of government. And this is one thing that a lot of you might not like to hear, but where we're in Syria to combat ISIS, we weren't necessarily there to combat the regime underneath Assad. So even though we are political enemies with Assad and his government, we weren't there to be at war with them. We were there to be at war with ISIS. So now President Trump says that the war with ISIS has concluded and we're going to pull out. And what a lot of people go, well, Assad and Russia are going to get control of the country. Well, here's the thing. We weren't necessarily there to be at war with Assad and Russia. We were there to be at war with ISIS, which I'm not saying we're still political enemies with Russia. We're still political enemies with Assad, but that's not why we were there. So all I'm saying is we'll see what happens. Hopefully it goes well, because power vacuums do cause a lot of destruction and death, as seen in Iraq, as seen in Afghanistan, as seen throughout history. So hopefully something positive comes of it, but we'll have to just stay tuned and don't get too freaked out. There's still a lot of checks on the president if you think that something bad might happen. I think it'll all work out. But we're going to finish it off with a little bit of free thinking. And today we're going to talk about uncertainty. We had becoming comfortable with uncertainty. That's the key. How do you become comfortable with a feeling of uncertainty? We had an episode a couple months ago about this where we were talking about trying new things and developing knowledge and skills, and how you're going to inherently feel uncomfortable. And that's the truth, is that you're when you in order to I'll start off like this. I have a personal belief that what defines us as human beings is the ability to adapt, learn, and develop. Whereas animals, they might like grow up and grow into their instincts and grow into what's expected of them as, living beings in the ecosystem. But then they basically just fulfill their role for their life. Whereas humans have the ability to adapt, to learn, and to develop, to learn new things, a bunch of new things, to develop, to learn. You know what I mean? So to me, that's the basis of humanity, and opposable thumbs, which are also important. But, some people don't have thumbs. But, so where I'm going with this is that in order to do those things, you have to do things that are new. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. In order to learn something new, you have to try it without knowing it. And that's where my belief that in order to become successful, inherently you have to become comfortable with uncertainty. You're going to have to try new things that you can't do, that you don't know how to do, that are scary, and you're going to have to adapt to them. And that's another thing, is that human nature is inherently looking for patterns. It's looking for patterns. It's looking for stability. Humans want to get stuck in a pattern, in a routine of life where they're comfortable. That's like the goal of human life, is to be comfortable. And that's just a genetic feature that's been around for however many years. And so that's where I'm saying it's usually difficult to experience this kind of uncertainty, or at least to put yourself in this uncertainty, because the goal is comfort, right? And usually in the past, what has happened is that you would have to inherently fight through discomfort and uncertainty in order to achieve comfort. But the issue is now modern day, in modern day society, you can achieve that a level of comfort without putting yourself through uncertainty or discomfort in order to achieve comfort. You can just go straight to comfort and not have achieved anything, but just live a very bland life of a standard job that you've had since you were 16, and you carry it on until you're 65 and retire. It's an option. But in order to be successful, you need to now personally put yourself in these uncomfortable situations. That's what's difficult for a lot of people. I don't know.
I completely agree. Do you think there's any special tips or tricks to like start to get on that process of being comfortable?
You got to start out.
Uncertainty?
The reality of it is you just got to do it. And a lot of people think that that's a crazy idea, but start off with something small. There's a big...
a lot of things like people are uncertain of are like a lot of high risk things, So like a good way to get onto that path is just try a bunch of small low risk things.
And I think
but they have to be like brand new to you.
Right, and I think
brand new low risk things.
And I think that's what all the episodes are coming together. But that's why athletic competition is so key to success, is because you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. You're trying new things. You're trying to develop your skills. And that's something that can directly help you in your endeavors to, develop new skills and try new things. You know what I mean? Like, try doing a sport. It's the easiest way to not put your money at risk, not to, risk more than, you're willing to do, but to get that same experience. And that's what a lot of people do, is it gives them the confidence to say, hey, I was nervous to try new things, but now I just learned how to play like 3 new hobbies, and I, upped my bench press by 100 pounds. If I can up my bench press by 100 pounds by eating a bunch of creatine like I'm a monster and, eating steaks to the face, then maybe I can go out there and interview for a new job that I would like to do more.
Well, that's funny you said that. That reminds me of a quote I saw one day. It was. Let me pull it up on here because it was a good quote. I'm never gonna forget it. All right, because it's Christmas season. It was if you've spent 8 years believing Santa is real, you can spend 5 minutes believing in yourself.
Right. It's 100% true. Here's the thing. In order to be successful, you gotta try new things. You gotta develop the knowledge and the skills to be successful. That's a philosophy of freedom and power.
Well, so what people are scared of is like with uncertainty is like they don't know how it's gonna end.
Right.
They can't see the future, and you just gotta accept that you can't see the future. You just gotta go for it.
Right. Well, that's the point. Is yes, you will never be able to see if you can. That's the point of being comfortable with uncertainty. Is if you are excited to go into if you can go and try new things so much that you're excited to try new things. Like, what if your hobby was trying new things, where falling flat on your face and failing and learning and adapting was no longer, a necessity by nature to be successful, but rather like your hobby? Could you imagine that? Where, you wanted to go out there and fail. You wanted to go out there and try something new. Like, that's how people get there. That's how people that are massively successful get there. Is they get excited about it and they go out there and just run around like they're just Superman. And guess what? No one judges them for failing. No one hates on them for failing. And the biggest conspiracy here is that they don't always fail. They're actually a little bit more resilient than you think. People are actually a little bit more resilient and adaptable than you think. You're going to go out there and you're going to do something and you're going to think you're going to fail, but you're going to end up succeeding in a lot of things. And you're going to be like, wow, you know what? Maybe I can pull it off just by human nature of being a higher primate. But yeah, it's definitely possible. You just got to go out there and really try it. And that's the point with the sports, with the hobbies, with new social interactions, is you can test yourself out. You can start off doing smaller things before if you don't feel comfortable to go out there and start a business on your own and invest, refinance your house to start a new business, which you might want to do. Well, why don't you master jiu-jitsu first? Why don't you learn how to hit a free throw from the half-court line? And once you're able to do that, maybe you'll believe in yourself a little more and you'll trust yourself a little more to be able to take a bigger risk. Like,
Well, just think about like how many people have accomplished something great by playing it safe.
No one has. No one has.
I don't want to say no one, because I'm sure we'll get an email saying, well, this person played it safe their entire life. Look at them now.
And you're also got, and you also got to think.
But most people don't make it by playing it safe.
Right. And you also.
Like you're never going to be successful or great if you never encounter difficulties or have any stumbles along the way.
You have to, because success, basically one of the main factors of success is that you are achieving something that other people are not. And therefore, in order for you to gain a benefit that others are not, it means that you have to do something that others are not. And that's what's going to set you apart. You know what I mean? It's going to be an individual decision to do something where most of your friends and family probably aren't, unless you're some hotshot, living in a hyperactive community, which is not a lot of us. Then probably most of your friends and family won't be doing what you're doing if you're going to really be pushing it. And it's going to be strange. It's going to be individual. You're going to be out there on your own. But it also is a good time to meet new friends, try new things, and build new social networks, because there's other people out there like you. But for a lot of you, you might already have established groups that you have to kind of move away from and try and, create new social networks. Nothing wrong with that. In the long run, it's going to benefit you. That's just the way it works with this kind of stuff. You got to know what you want, and we'll go right back into the 3 things it takes to be successful. You have to know what you want. You have to take massive risk, and then you have to not let anyone tell you that you can't achieve it. That's what it is. You have to have a big ass dream. Then you have to be willing to risk your well-being to achieve it, because that's what's going to set you apart from the other people. Is they might be willing to risk $10 and everyone's willing to risk $10. That's why you can't be successful with $10. But if you're willing to take a bigger risk, a more monumental risk, a risk that actually has some value to it, you have to put in value to get value out. And if you do that, and then you don't let the haters talk you down, and one of the biggest places that they'll talk you down is if you fail. So you might fail at first. Don't let that stop you. Just keep pushing. And, who knows where you end up. But that's basically the whole point of this. And we'll get into it more in the future. We need to talk more about, like, the times of old, back 20 episodes ago, when we were really developing our thoughts and our ideals of freedom empowered. There's a lot of applicability to it, but we wanted to start giving you guys a little bit of insight into, current events and the news, which we have done. And, we'll keep bouncing back and forth. We gave you an interview last episode, which was pretty cool. We need to do more of those. We'll see who else we can get on, and we'll keep talking about news that's relevant, and we'll keep trying to develop our ideas, because I learned a lot from these episodes, and I'm sure Nick does too. Right, Nick?
Yeah, and for you guys, the listeners, go out there and go be uncertain.
Right.
Go try new things.
Try something stupid. Don't go out there and try something crazy that, has a huge impact on your life. Try something stupid like salsa dancing. And because if you fail, who cares?
Go out there and take a small dance class.
Because if you fail,
get uncomfortable.
If you fail, who cares? It doesn't ruin your life. But at the same time, if you succeed, you still get that same amount of feeling of accomplishment that you learned something new. So, just a little.
Yeah, that's gotta be something that grinds my gears. I know lots of people who do this. Like, they don't want to try something because they're scared that they're gonna be bad at it. But it's something completely, like, has no impact on their life. They just don't want to do it because they're scared, like, they're not going to be good at it.
I tell myself that all the time. Whenever I, like, see myself about to fuck up, I just have to tell myself, first of all, you might never see any of these people ever again. And even if you do, one, do they even care? And two, does it even matter if they care? Because you're an individual and you just have to push through it. Just embarrass yourself. Who cares? It's exciting. Can you imagine just throwing off this society like that? Just totally embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. People love that stuff.
Right.
It's a good learning
experience. You gotta
get
comfortable with it.
Yep. It's definitely a necessity. So, yeah, I think we had a shorter episode today. Nick has a dinner date tonight, so that's why we talked a little bit fast. But I think we hit all the points. I think we squeezed out the information that we needed to, and that's what's important. And yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we can not be in World War III when we hit our next episode. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, check out our Facebook pages, guys, and our other social media pages. Well, we've been a little slow on them, but we're working on it. We're doing the best we can. We're not social media lights. So, we do the best we can. But we'll talk to you guys next time.